TLC band member Lisa Left Eye Lopez was killed last night in a car crash in Central America.
At the same time, we're also getting a first look at the truck driver accused of causing the crash.
They were once the brightest stars in the Hollywood sky, but then all faded in horrifying car accidents. One minute, they were being celebrated. The next, they lay lifeless behind the wheel, surrounded by shattered glass and countless unanswered mysteries. Cars swerved off the road, brakes failed. A stranger smirked near the parking lot. The world called it an accident. But in today's video, you'll see that some deaths aren't so simple. Here are the tragedies of 15 black celebrities, all lost in bizarre car crashes, and none lived to tell the truth. 1. Clifford Brown, the jazz legend. Silenced by a mysterious crash. On June 26, 1956, a dark, stormy night on Pennsylvania's highway claimed the life of one of the greatest talents in jazz history, Clifford Brown, a young trumpet prodigy, only 25. Before that tragic crash, Clifford had already captured the hearts of millions with his hit, Joy Spring, a piece that became immortal in the world of jazz. But just when the glory days had barely begun, the tragedy struck that night. That evening, Clifford and his close friend, Richie Powell, a gifted jazz pianist, had just finished a successful performance. They sat together in a friend's car, driving along endless roads wrapped in darkness. Rain poured from the sky, hammering the pavement, blurring visibility. Headlights shimmered, but only enough to light up the raindrops shattering against the windshield. Inside the car, Clifford and Richie were drained. They had just come off a high-energy set, both physically and mentally exhausted. Yet they still smiled, chatting about music like they always did after every show. Suddenly, the car raced down the highway. Ahead, only a wall of darkness. The rain made the road slick. The car skidded. In a blink, it lost control, veered off the shoulder, and flipped. In those fleeting seconds, two musical giants were taken forever. When rescue teams arrived, the car was mangled beyond recognition. The jazz world's heart stopped upon hearing the news. Clifford Brown, one of jazz's brightest stars, was gone. That moment not only shattered fans' hearts, but raised a question no one could answer. Was this just an accident? Or was there something darker behind their untimely death? There's a secret few ever heard, a story almost forgotten. Before the car sped off into its final night, a man in black was seen by the vehicle. No one saw his face clearly, but he stood close, his cold eyes watching. Some claim he was the one who cut the brakes just before they left. Was it a scheme to silence talent like Clifford and Richie? He just needed one chance. That night, as the car vanished into the storm, he got it. The mystery was never solved. But the death of Clifford Brown remains one of music history's most painful, unanswered losses. 2. Richie Powell. The death with his best friend and the mystery on the highway. Also present on the fateful ride with Clifford Brown was Richie Powell. He was one of the most talented and promising pianists in the jazz world, having made a deep impression in the music scene with his remarkable talent at the time. As known, Richie Powell and his close friend, Clifford Brown, both perished on the drive through the Pennsylvania highway during a torrential downpour in 1956. But there was something only Richie Powell knew, a secret that had never been revealed before that ill-fated trip began. A day before the accident, Richie received a strange phone call. The person on the other end remained anonymous, but the raspy voice warned him, "Be careful, something's not right tonight." Richie didn't pay much attention, thinking it was just a prank or meaningless words. However, as the car started to move through the rainy night, an overwhelming sense of unease gripped him. What was that feeling? A warning? A premonition of something terrible about to happen? As the car sped into a curve and lost control, Richie managed to glance through his glasses toward Clifford. In his friend's eyes, there was something Richie couldn't quite explain, a clear sense of helplessness. Just seconds later, the car flipped over, and in that very moment, Richie suddenly remembered the strange call and the warning from the day before. Be careful, something's not right. But it was already too late. When the car crashed into the mound of dirt and shattered completely, Richie still couldn't comprehend what was happening. He screamed in despair as the vehicle spun, but his scream was swallowed up by the dark void. Though the crash was officially reported as caused by bad weather, perhaps Richie knew the real answer. The mystery of the accident continued to haunt Richie even after he was no longer among the living. And the warning words from the man in black, Richie never had the chance to decipher them. 3. Billy Stewart, the conspiracy behind the tragic accident. Billy Stewart, with his warm and soulful voice, captivated millions of hearts with the hit Summertime. At a time when the world adored him and his music career was soaring, tragedy struck. On January 17, 1970, during an ordinary morning, a sudden accident claimed his life and the lives of his entire band. Billy and his group were en route to a performance in North Carolina when their car veered off into the Neuse River under poor weather conditions. Bystanders were helpless as the vehicle sank, and those inside couldn't be rescued in time. The news of their deaths sent shockwaves through the music community. Such talented lives lost so abruptly left behind sorrow and questions with no answers. But the real mystery only began when the investigation into the accident got underway. When the vehicle maintenance staff was questioned, a suspicious detail came to light. On the day the car was brought in for servicing, a strange man had paid the mechanic in an unusual way. Suspicions deepened when investigators discovered the vehicle had been subtly sabotaged, so cleverly, in fact, that no one noticed until it was far too late. It seemed someone had wanted to stop Billy Stewart and his band from making that trip. Was it revenge? Or perhaps a hidden conspiracy within the music industry that outsiders could never understand? Why would someone like Billy Stewart, with his immense talent and the love of millions, become the target of such a cruel act? These questions remain unanswered, but they continue to haunt those who loved Billy and his musical legacy. 4. Lisa, Left Eye. Lopes, a fateful premonition, and the death she couldn't escape. Lisa, Left Eye Lopes, the boldest and most fiery member of the legendary group TLC, was an unpredictable, untamed flame, radiant in a way no one else could match. Behind the sharp eyes, rainbow-dyed hair, and stage-burning dance moves was a soul that never found peace, constantly torn between the spotlight and her personal shadows. In April 2002, Lisa traveled to Honduras, not for a performance or vacation, but to rediscover herself. She was filming a documentary about a journey to cleanse her soul, heal from the past, and break free from the whirlwind of controversy that had followed her throughout her career. But during that very journey of healing, an unseen tragedy was quietly following her steps. Just a few days before the fatal accident, Lisa was driving on a narrow rural road in Honduras. In a sudden and unexpected moment, she struck a local 10-year-old boy named Bayron Isol Fuentes. The boy died from severe injuries. Lisa panicked and wept uncontrollably, but she didn't flee. She carried him into her car, rushed him to the hospital, paid all medical expenses, and stayed for the funeral, her eyes hollow, as if a piece of her own soul had been lost. Later, in a private scene from the documentary, Lisa looked directly into the camera and said, "I feel like death is chasing me. Maybe it mistook me for that little boy." Her voice trailed off, her gaze distant, as if she herself couldn't understand why she had said such a thing. Then, on April 25, 2002, the accident happened. On that very same road, in an SUV carrying family and friends, Lisa suddenly swerved to avoid another vehicle. But the SUV lost control. In an instant, it flipped multiple times and veered off the road. Lisa was the only one who didn't survive. Once again, heartbreak fell upon the music world. But this time, it wasn't just loss. It felt like a prophecy fulfilled. A woman who lived like a storm ended her life in a spiral of chaos, not because of rebellion, but because of an eerie sense of death that had quietly followed her, refusing to let go. Lisa Left Eye Lopes passed away at age 30. A groundbreaking talent, a soul torn between light and darkness, and her final tragedy feels as though it had been written long before, sending chills down the spine of anyone who dares to remember. 5. Teddy Pendergrass, the crash in a cloud of liquor. Teddy Pendergrass was a soul music legend, a shining star in the music world, known for mesmerizing tracks like Love TKO and Close the Door. On the night of March 18, 1982, Teddy had just wrapped up a powerhouse performance in Philadelphia. But that night, as he drove his Rolls-Royce down a quiet road, no one could have predicted that the worst was waiting for him. Teddy was not someone who handled loneliness easily. After long nights of performing, the emptiness would rise within him, pushing him toward bottles of alcohol in hopes of forgetting it all. But that night, he didn't know that his final drink would awaken a darkness he could no longer outrun. As the car sped down the lonely road, Teddy could feel the alcohol coursing through his veins, clouding his mind. Everything around him blurred. In his intoxicated haze, an image appeared, an old friend who had died in a crash, now standing before him like a ghost in the night. Startled, he slammed on the gas, as if trying to outrun it. But the night offered no escape. A violent collision plunged everything into darkness. The Rolls-Royce slammed into a roadside tree. The impact was so severe the car shattered, and Teddy's body was thrown from the wreck. A horrifying crash echoed through the silence. By the time rescuers arrived, Teddy was no longer breathing. The seductive voice, the music legend, couldn't escape his own tragedy. Teddy Pendergrass's death wasn't just a loss to music, it marked the end of a private battle no one truly understood. 6. Jesse Belvin, the haunting of invisible enemies. In the years leading up to 1960, Jesse Belvin was a rising R&B star, best known for Goodnight My Love. His music career was on a steady rise. After an emotional performance one night, he and his wife, Joanne, got into their car to head home. But on that fateful night, February 6, 1960, as their car sped down a dark Arkansas road, tragedy struck. Exhausted from the concert, Jesse had no idea that death was drawing near. Sitting alongside his wife, the night seemed quiet and peaceful, even in the late hours. But just as their car rounded a bend, headlights from an oncoming vehicle suddenly flared. That car lost control and slammed into theirs with unbelievable force. The sound of the impact tore through the silence, and then nothing. Jesse and Joanne both died at the scene. In the aftermath, rumors spread quickly. Some claimed their tires had been slashed. Others suspected that racial hatred had played a role in the crash. But the bigger question remains. Was it truly an accident or a cruel conspiracy that ended the life of a young star? Jesse Belvin's death was not just a musical tragedy. It remains an unsolved mystery. 7. David Ruffin, the final moments of a ladies' man. David Ruffin, an R&B legend with a voice that captivated millions, was famous for My Girl as a member of the Temptations. But behind the glittering fame were long nights of fleeting affairs, unstable relationships, and a trail of poor decisions. His life was full of emotional scars and betrayals he couldn't seem to erase. On June 1, 1991, David got into his car, preparing for what seemed like a simple drive down a quiet road in Philadelphia. Beside him sat a woman he had hastily abandoned after a night of partying. She returned, flashing a charming smile. But in her eyes was a quiet fury. David knew she wouldn't just walk away, but he still treated her like a disposable piece of his messy life. To him, she was just another passing fling. As the car raced through the dark night, a careless, mocking comment slipped from David's lips. "You're just a cheap girl. Get over it." The words hit like a lightning bolt, striking the heart of a woman already on edge. In a sudden outburst of rage, she lost control. She yanked the steering wheel, and the car veered violently off the road, slamming into a large tree. In the stillness that followed, David could feel her anger ripping through the silence inside him. But it was too late. The car was shattered, David's body thrown from the driver's seat, and the vehicle twisted beyond recognition. When rescue teams arrived, they were baffled. David lay lifeless in the car, but the woman was nowhere to be found. That relationship, like the long nights of drinking and recklessness, ended in a high price paid. Was it revenge from a woman scorned, or just an unavoidable tragedy? 8. Jackie Wilson, a legend who couldn't escape death. Jackie Wilson, famously known as Mr. Excitement, was a music legend of the 1950s and 60s with timeless hits like Lonely Teardrops. He was one of the brightest stars in soul and R&B, known for his powerful voice and electrifying dance moves. But that spotlight didn't shine forever. On September 25, 1975, a tragedy occurred on stage that shocked the entire music world. It was meant to be a memorable night in Jackie's career as he stood performing with the usual energy and passion. But suddenly, he collapsed mid-performance. Medical staff rushed in immediately and transported him to the hospital in critical condition. This wasn't a routine fainting spell. It was a sign of severe underlying health issues that no one had foreseen. Things only got worse from there. While en route to the hospital, Jackie's ambulance was involved in a collision with another vehicle. The crash not only worsened his condition, but also delayed the emergency response. The injuries and trauma from that crash severely impacted his chances of recovery. Though he received treatment, his condition deteriorated, and on January 21, 1976, Jackie Wilson passed away after a long battle with pain and decline. If the ambulance had never crashed that night, could Jackie Wilson have stayed with us a little longer? 9. Al Green Jr., haunted by the ghosts of the past. Al Green Jr., the son of legendary soul singer Al Green, struggled with the ghosts of his past. His father's greatness never brought him peace, and the invisible battles inside him only grew stronger with time. On March 13, 1994, in the dark of night in Memphis, Tennessee, a tragedy unfolded that no one could have predicted. That night, inside his car, Al Green Jr. was caught in a whirlwind of drugs and alcohol, a storm he couldn't stop. In a state of total panic, he slammed on the gas as if trying to outrun himself. He was all too familiar with the feeling when addiction took over his mind and made it impossible to think clearly. The car sped faster down the empty road, headlights blinding him. He began to see things, hallucinations, blurry images, something pushing him to do things he couldn't control. And then the car lost control. The violent crash caused it to flip, and in that instant, everything ended. No one knows exactly what happened, but according to witnesses, Al Green Jr. seemed unable to stop, as if some unseen force was pushing him forward. When police arrived, they couldn't find any clear explanation for the accident. Regardless, his death was sudden and tragic. Just like his father, Al Jr. had battled with the darkness inside his own life, and ultimately, it consumed him. 10th ZZ Hill, an unresolved tragedy. ZZ Hill was a celebrated name in the blues scene, known for his iconic hit, Down Home Blues. In the final years of his life, his career may not have burned as brightly, but his name still held deep affection in the hearts of blues lovers. On the night of April 27, 1984, tragedy struck after he finished a performance in Texas. Instead of returning to his hotel to rest, ZZ decided to stop by a local bar, drawn in by the temptations of nightlife. At that bar, he met a mysterious man with an almost magnetic presence. The man, with haunting eyes, offered ZZ drugs, something he had worked hard to leave behind during the darkest chapters of his life. Despite everything he had endured, ZZ couldn't resist. The craving returned fiercer than ever, and in a moment of hesitation, he gave in. The drug spread through his system, bringing a strange, disorienting sensation. ZZ left the bar, mind hazy, heart pounding uncontrollably. He got into his car and began driving home, unaware that it would be his final journey. The high, blurred reality. The quiet Texas roads turned into a dizzying maze. He felt as though someone was pushing him into the darkness. Was that a car up ahead? He couldn't tell. He honked, but there was no response. The road had transformed into a nightmare, and then everything shattered. The car crashed violently into an object on the roadside. When rescue crews arrived, no one could explain what had happened. All they found was the wreckage and ZZ Hill's lifeless body. And so, ZZ Hill died, not from a lack of talent or love, but from a temptation he thought he had long conquered. 11. Eddie Bongo. Brown, the silent passenger, and a fatal crash. Eddie Bongo Brown, born in 1932, was a gifted percussionist whose bongos brought rhythm to some of Motown's most iconic hits. He worked with legends like Marvin Gaye and played a crucial role behind the scenes of soul music's golden age. Just as his career was evolving again, tragedy struck. In 1984, at age 52, Eddie was involved in a severe car crash in Los Angeles. Early reports claimed he was intoxicated. That night, Eddie had performed and left the venue visibly drunk. On his way home, his car sped through empty streets, music blasting, a fleeting comfort to his fractured spirit. But one unexplained detail didn't surface right away. There had been someone else in the car that night, a man sitting silently in the passenger seat for the entire ride. No one knew who he was. He said nothing, simply watched. Eddie, in his drunken state, seemed unaware of the man's presence. That silent presence only intensified Eddie's feeling of emptiness. He drove faster, as though trying to outrun himself. The lines of reality blurred. Something unseen seemed to push him, an invisible force urging him forward through the empty Los Angeles streets. It was like someone was whispering to him to go faster, to let go. Then came the crash. The car slammed into a median. When rescue crews arrived, the passenger seat was empty. No sign of the mysterious man, just Eddie, motionless. Who was that man? Did he play a role in what happened? Rumors swirled. Some believed the car had been tampered with and that the silent companion may have triggered the final tragedy that took Eddie's life. 12. Bobby Day, the mysterious death of an R&B icon. Bobby Day, born Robert James Byrd, was one of the standout names in 1950s-60s R&B. By the 1990s, in his 60s, his stardom had faded from the mainstream, but he remained beloved in the R&B community, performing smaller gigs and staying connected with fans. On the calm night of July 27, 1990, Bobby Day left his home and drove along the quiet streets of Los Angeles. No one knew it would be his final drive. His car suddenly lost control and crashed into a roadside object. The accident happened fast, and Bobby Day died at the scene. He was found alone in the wrecked vehicle. No passengers, no witnesses. But in the days following the accident, troubling questions arose. Who was with Bobby in those final hours? Friends and colleagues recalled strange recent encounters. A woman, reportedly a passionate fan, had tried to meet him privately. Bobby politely declined, but she didn't take no well. Some say she planned something, anything, to get close to him again. Days later, the crash happened, and she was never seen again. Witnesses came forward saying they had seen someone in the car with Bobby shortly before the accident. It was as if an unseen hand had silently shaped Bobby Day's fate, robbing the world of a voice that once brought joy to so many. All that remained was the memory of a musical legend, one who gave his life to his art, but whose final moments are still wrapped in haunting mystery. 13. Ronnie Turner, accident or a final escape? Ronnie Turner, the only son of Tina and Ike Turner, lived in the shadows of two music legends, but the limelight never brought him peace. Instead, his life was marked by inner turmoil and wounds that few ever saw. On the night of December 9, 2022, after a tense confrontation with his band, Ronnie left alone, frustrated and drained. He stepped into his car, feeling a strange force pushing him forward, faster and faster, as if something was pulling him into the unknown. The road ahead wasn't one of future success, but of finality. The car slammed into an object at high speed. In those last seconds, it was as if Ronnie was fleeing from himself. Police couldn't explain the excessive speed, as if he had nothing left to lose. The crash raised a lingering question. Was this a tragic accident or the final act of someone no longer willing to hold on? 14. Aaliyah, the fateful car accident and her final flight. Aaliyah, the singer and actress known for hits like Try Again and Are You That Somebody, won the hearts of millions with her sweet voice and captivating image. However, on a fateful day, her brilliant career was abruptly cut short, and the tragedy began with a car accident. On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah was driving her SUV on a quiet road in the Bahamas. She had just completed a music video shoot for the song Rock the Boat and wanted to relax before heading back to the U.S. As she rounded a corner, a car unexpectedly sped up from behind and nearly crashed into hers. The panic caused by the near miss made Aaliyah lose control of her vehicle, causing it to swerve dangerously. Fortunately, she wasn't seriously injured, but the collision made her feel unsafe, prompting her to cancel the flight she had originally booked. Due to the incident on the road, Aaliyah took a different flight to return to the U.S. Little did she know that flight would become the one destined to take her life. The plane she boarded was a small, dangerous aircraft. Just minutes after takeoff, the plane lost control and crashed, claiming the lives of Aaliyah and everyone on board. Although there were no serious signs from the car accident, it was the sudden change in her travel plans that led to the inevitable tragedy. Aaliyah's death left many unanswered questions. Could her anxiety and unease from the earlier car accident have been a warning sign for her untimely demise? Or was it simply a tragic coincidence, a series of events beyond explanation? The fateful flight marked the end of the life of a musical legend, a talented woman, but perhaps it also serves as a reminder of the fragility of life and the uncontrollable events that shape our journey. Aaliyah will always be remembered, but her death, from a car accident to a fatal flight, remains an unsolved tragedy. 15. Jimmy Outler, The Fateful Call. On November 12, 1967, what began as an ordinary night in America became a turning point in the life and death of Jimmy Outler. A powerful voice in the soul music community and a member of the legendary gospel group, the Soul Stirrers, Jimmy had once been a source of pride in gospel music. Though his career was transitioning and no longer in the spotlight, he still held a firm place in the hearts of true music lovers. That night, lost in the haze of celebration, Jimmy left a bar and stepped into his car. No one knew what had changed in him in that moment. Just hours before the crash, a cryptic phone call came while Jimmy was driving. A cold, emotionless voice echoed through the receiver. "You can't escape, Jimmy." The words were unclear, but enough to send chills down his spine. How long had it been since he'd spoken to this person? A mix of indifference, exhaustion, and fear swirled in his mind. He was far from sober, and the intoxication only blurred reality further. He slammed his foot on the gas, racing into the darkness on an empty road. The Texas streets were silent, the only sound the growl of the engine, like a voice calling him from another world. Suddenly, the car spun out of control. A violent crash tore through the night. Police later found the vehicle flipped along the roadside with Jimmy Outler alone and lifeless inside. No other passengers, nothing but wreckage, and the remnants of a life abruptly broken. No one could explain why the car veered off the road. And that call, was it truly a threat? A question that would never be answered, leaving only speculation about a death that wasn't just fueled by alcohol, but by a looming darkness that Jimmy couldn't escape. We've just sat behind the wheel of 15 of the most haunting crashes in the history of entertainment. Every roar of an engine, every wheel spinning through the darkness, carried with it a soul quietly breaking apart. These were once the shining faces of soul, R&B, and jazz, brilliant, unforgettable, alive. And yet, one by one, they vanished in ways that left behind more questions than answers. Behind each collision, there may have been a warning, a sign, or perhaps even a silent conspiracy, one that only the departed could carry with them into the depths. So now we're left to wonder, how many of these 15 deaths were truly accidental, and how many were tragedies scripted long before the wheels ever turned? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you still have the courage, we'll meet again, behind the wheel of the next journey into the unknown.